What's up, everybody? Today is a special day. Today I'm going to be hanging out with Gensu Dean. We're going to hit a couple record stores, maybe a vegan strip club, maybe holla at Kev Brown. But today is all about Gensu Dean. Let's go.
Here, let me get my let me get your phone real quick.
I've never seen that. That's new level. That's new level. Two-handed searching is too new level. I'm a novice. Wow.
first time I'm actually physically meeting this friend. I've known Gensu Dean roughly about, I want to say, a little over 6 years. I got familiar with his music via MySpace, and what made me follow him on MySpace was Large Professor. Large Professor had, when MySpace, you had your top 8. I knew everybody in Large Professor's top 8 except for this guy.
You know what the friends list?
Yeah, the little friends list. So you put your top 8 friends on there, right? So, you know, Pete Rock, Q-Tip, I know everybody. And then Gensu Dean. I'm like, huh? Who's Gensu Dean? Never heard of this guy a day in my life. So I click on his page. He has 3 or 4 remixes up there. I'm like, yo, these are really good. Like, these are really good. And, you know, if you're not familiar with the great Gensu Dean, he calls himself a record collector. I'm just going to say hoarder. I'm just going to jump out there and call him a record hoarder. So on his MySpace, he had 3 to 4 copies of a record you would have to give at least a kidney and some stem cells to get. And his that coveted record, of course, is Stark Reality. He had 3 of them. I'm like, yo, who is this guy? So after following his music, like, yo, that's dope, and liking stuff and putting comments, I was like, hey, man, give me a phone call. And he did. He actually gave me a phone call, and we started a friendship from there. Both kindred spirits in loving hip hop, both kindred spirits in loving vinyl culture, both kindred spirits of certain pieces of equipment that we admired and were users of, and we built a friendship since there. But now this is the first day I'm actually getting to meet him in person in the physical, so it's a pleasure to meet you. And of course, even though we've spoken, I still have thousands of questions. So are you prepared for this onslaught of questions?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, let's start here, man. Okay, you're a lover of hip hop. I'm not sure everybody knows exactly your origin. You're from Mississippi, right?
Well, actually, that's my roots. My father was in the Army.
Okay.
So I grew up all over, literally all over the place. But my roots are in Mississippi. But I was born in Kentucky, and then a year later moved to Germany, and then back to Kentucky, then Tennessee, then Mississippi, then Illinois, like all over.
Okay, so let's talk about the meteorite called hip hop and how it hit you, how young you were, where you were, what was the song that made you go, what is this?
It would have been in Kentucky. It would have been in Kentucky.
Wow, okay.
And my older sisters, I'm the baby of the bunch.
Okay.
And so my older sisters would come home from parties playing music, talking about parties, and I would just draw up whatever I could from there. My first recollection of what really hit me was maybe Hard Times by Run DMC. But so much was going on at that time because I got into hip hop as a B-boy, even though I was a little kid.
Wow.
That was my introduction into hip hop was breaking.
Okay.
And every, break dance contest, I had to get, a waiver because I was so young. I was Kid Fresh at the time.
One of 20 million kids named Fresh, Kid Fresh.
But in the Tennessee, Kentucky area, I was the only Kid Fresh. And so that was my introduction. And so, of course, being a B-boy at such a young age, breaking, so all of the, Planet Rock, played at your own risk, looking for the perfect beat, all that kind of stuff, I was privy to hearing because that's what we used to break to.
Now, that at that point, you're just a casual listener.
Yeah.
What is the pivotal point for you? Like, no, I want to be a participant, an active participant in this thing called hip hop.
That would have been Rock the Bells.
Wow.
LL's album.
The first one, Radio.
Radio.
Radio Rock the Bells.
I wanted to be LL Cool J.
So you transitioned from B-boy to MC.
Correct. So when I noticed, and we had moved to off the military facility, and we were living just like regular civilian town or whatever.
Okay.
So I noticed that when I went to the new school, that the break-in was kind of phasing out. Nobody was really doing it that much.
Okay.
And so around that time, as you know, when I started getting into MCing, and I wanted to be LL, and so mimicking LL and Run from Run DMC was kind of the thing.
Okay.
And there were a tremendous amount of records starting to come out at that time. Hip hop was starting to gain some wind because Def Jam artists were becoming big. The Fresh Fest tour started to pop off, and so you just had this explosion. Now, because of where I was, it was trickling down, but we would hear about concerts in Nashville, which was a bigger city, and stuff like that. And so yeah, it was just a natural progression. The b-boy thing kind of started to fade in terms of participants in that area, and then I just went into the rhyming.
So what made you put the mic down and say, I'm about these beats now? What was the catalyst for that?
That would have been the early to mid 90s.
Okay.
When I noticed that it was taking a hard time to pen a 16-bar verse, I said, you know what? I kind of want to let someone else say what I wish I could say, and I'll just say what I need to say through the music.
Okay.
Because I was doing both, like, the great Diamond D, peace to my man Diamond, the great Large Professor, my brother, peace to Large. I was kind of doing what they were doing, mimicking what I saw them. They were mentoring me from a distance through their music. So I was rhyming and making beats. But my rhymes, I would put a lot of my ideology in the rhyme, and sometimes that would go over people's head. And it just got more and more challenging. And so I wanted to dive deeper into music because I just always felt pulled toward the music anyway. It was always a 70-30 with me. Okay. So that was also a natural progression. And I would still jump on like choruses and stuff like that.
So another thing people don't know, well, they might do, but they know very little of it, and I want to know more about it. The relationship with you and David Banner, where does it start? How does it begin? And now you guys are, literally brothers at this point. Yeah. Did a couple of projects together. The Crooked Letters, I can't wait till you talk about that. I want to find out more about the Crooked Letters. Yeah. And even now helping him with the God Box and stuff like that. So talk about the infancy of your relationship to David Banner to where you guys are now as brothers and comrades in hip hop.
Yeah, peace and blessings to my brother, the mighty David Banner. So I met this guy around 95. I used to live in the Bay Area. And I left the Bay Area around early 95 and moved to Mississippi.
Okay.
So at this time I was still rhyming, still making beats. And my mission, anytime I went to any new area, the mission is the same. Find the record stores and find out the local talent. And so I did both. And I actually ended up working in a record store. Excuse me. So what I would do is I would monitor what the customers were buying. So if they were buying, something from the Woo, or they were buying some Tribe stuff, or, any of the Hyro stuff, then I would go, okay, they're kind of into what I do. And so I would approach them and say, hey, I do music. Here's my demo. $5 or whatever I was selling. So I was selling my stuff.
Wow.
So doing that, meeting people, long story short, his Banner's name was the reoccurring name in terms of who was the guy to know, because he, like myself, rhymed and made beats. And he was crazy with both. He was like the jazz version of RZA. Yeah, he was, oh man, it was very magical time. And so he was going to school, I believe, and he was at Southern at the time. So he wasn't in Mississippi living. He was in college in Southern, in Louisiana. And so it got to him, some new guy with some beats, because my demo started kind of circulating. And so he was hearing my name. And I to this day, I think I was set up. So I was over this sister's crib chilling.
It always starts with I was over a sister's
Yeah,
crib.
I was
Every
over this.
story.
I was over this very beautiful piece to PJ, very beautiful sister. I was at her crib chilling. Knock at the door, and his Banner and two of his boys. I think Jada Groover was with him. Peace to Jada Groover. And I'm like, oh wow! Like in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, what the hell's going on? Like this is not how I planned to meet this dude. I'm at this chick's crib and he just shows up, and so she's like, oh, what's up, Banner? This is Gensu. I wasn't Gensu at the time. I was going by my righteous name, and she was like, oh, so we met, bong bong, and then he's like, do you have any beats with you? So I'm really thinking setup right now. And I'm like, yeah, I always carried a beat tape. So I carry a 90-minute beat tape. So before you know it, the apartment was full of people. I don't know how this happened. I don't know if they were, because there was no text. So I don't know if they were calling people or they had already said, hey, just start showing up at her apartment.
So then you look around.
I look around,
people.
it's 15. It was probably about eight or nine people.
Wow.
And I'm still new to Mississippi, so I don't know any of them except the chick. And so Banner gets up, and I call this beat tennis. He got up, he put in his tape, played a beat. The whole apartment's going crazy. Of course, he's the hometown favorite. They're going nuts. And I'm saying to myself, okay, I can't front. This beat is dope. So I got a bob. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going like, yeah, that's dope. Then he gets up and takes it out. Then I get up and play my beat. And I'm looking around, and you can see people like, they don't want to give it up because it's him. But then he had to give it up. And then they were all joining in like, yeah, that's dope. Then I took mine out. Then he put his in. So we did this back and forth beat tennis all night.
Wow.
The next day, he showed up at my crib and was like, yo, you're dope. He gave me my props. And we started a friendship from there.
Wow.
But it was still kind of competition-y.
Well, that's healthy. That's always healthy.
You got to have it. So steel sharpens steel.
So let's talk about who the Crooked Letters are. Let's talk about that album that it never saw the light of day.
It never saw the light of day. The Crooked Letters album.
Well, let's start telling them who they are.
Who they are. Okay, so Crooked Letters is David Banner, the incredible Kamikaze, and DJ Fingerprint, my man. And so the Crooked Letters project was the result of the Stew Pot Stowaway movement.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, Mississippi has very deep, incredible, and magical history when it comes to music, period, but in particular hip hop. So right when I got there, the Stew Pot Stowaway movement had died. This is pre-Wu-Tang. You had the Stew Pot Stowaways, which was the Ragabumpkins. Banner was solo. Kamikaze, I think, was in a group. I think he was solo or part of a group called Poetic something. There, you had a chick that sung. You had a chick that did poetry. Like you had it was a collective. It was like a
brain trust.
Yeah, or a Native Tongues. It was more like a Native Tongues type movement.
Okay.
And actually, the Ragabumpkins were the first group out of Mississippi to get a deal. Like they had a major deal, I think, like with Profile or something like that. But it ended up falling through because the group broke up before the ink dried. They were in unsigned hype and everything. And they were incredibly dope. Big up to my man Hugh. But so Crooked Letters came out of that. When those people started leaving from college and going back home and stuff like that, Crooked Letters was birthed out of that environment. And originally, the group was signed to Ichiban.
And I know Ichiban more of it is a distribution thing.
Yeah.
And what I remember from Ichiban is MC Breed.
Yep.
And Future in Your Front was on Ichiban.
Which was a big record.
Big.
Peace be upon
it was
him.
big here.
Yeah.
In D.C., it was even big here.
Peace be upon him. The Ichiban thing fell through, and then it was picked up by Correct Records out of L.A., which had Correct Records had Grav.
Grav that Kanye West produced.
Kanye West. Well, actually, my man Andy C. Peace to Andy. Andy was actually grooming Grav Andy and Dion, No ID.
Okay.
And Andy kind of backed off of it a little bit. There was some controversy around that. And then No ID brought in Kanye, and Kanye did the majority of that album. It's incredible.
And
album.
then there was Al Tariq was on that
Al
label.
Tariq from the Beatnuts, he was on that label. And then a group called Manish I think they were either from the Bay or they from LA. They were the first group on the label. And then us, Crooked Letters. And so we recorded the record. We started recording at Jackson State. HBCU, we were actually recording at the studio on the yard.
Wow.
On the campus. And we had a lot of fun with that record when we was doing it then. But then that label folded. And I think the assistant A&R from Correct or something, she went to Penalty, Tommy Boy Penalty as a publicist, and she took the record. And Tommy Zimmerman heard it, loved it, and boom, signed the group. And so we wrapped up the album at Penalty, and Nori, big up to Nori, was on the single.
Yes, I remember that.
Firewater. And Pimp C, peace be upon him, was on the B-side, Get Crunk. Him and Banner were really close. And so it was a magical time for all of us in Mississippi at that, to have that deal.
How much of that Crooked Letters album was you?
Initially, I had three records, 3 or 4 records on there. One that I did called These Woods, which I was told that was the reason. That was the one that took it over the top for them to get the deal. Didn't make the album because the manager at the time thought that it was too political and thought that it would ruffle too many feathers, and he had it taken off the album. Wow. And that was a big record. If anyone ever gets a chance to get a hold of that, that record is incredible. And then I did the title track, Gray Skies, and Caught in the Game.
Okay. But it never came out. What was the issue?
Penalty folded.
So
yeah, this was,
in the possible rollout of that album, the label is no more.
The label was no more. I think they got the single out. I think Lord Finesse album may have come out. Mm-hmm. Nori's album came out, and I think that was it. I think everything else was downhill from there. And so the group kind of did their own thing, and Banner went back on his grind, tweaked his music a tad bit, a little bit more Southern oriented, and secured the deal with Steve Rifkin.
Okay. Now, when people do hear your name, people that are familiar with you, your name is synonymous with one particular drum machine, which makes it interesting because that's not the drum machine of choice anymore for you.
Correct.
So let's talk about you and the SP1200 drum machine, which we're filming it so they can literally see it on your hoodie, the SP on your hoodie. So talk about your relationship with the SP1200 and why that machine was, I don't want to say sacred, but why that was such an important machine that you felt like, hey, this is sonically where I need to be, because you were unwavering in the use of that machine. It wasn't like I'm using this and the SP and that and the SP. Like, no, I'm using the SP1200.
Big up to DJ Sober. This was his company, Decade. He had did this many years ago, and I've had it for years. So big up to him. He's a super dope DJ too. The SP, there was always an infatuation with the SP because of the main ingredient album cover. Big up to my man Pete Rock and CL Smooth, peace. The album cover I stared at for days, for hours, just staring at it. That was the first time I ever saw a producer actually disclose his workstation, and he just gave us a peek into a window and indirectly answered endless questions that I had. Being able to look at that and see the records, and
I guarantee you, I don't think he knew that. I don't think he understood that at that time. That little glimpse.
It was everything. And I'll never forget.
pivotal.
It was rap pages, either rap pages or rap sheets, that had the advertisement. and the one that was like a newspaper. I think that was Rap Sheets,
Mm-hmm.
and it had the advertisement, and I couldn't wait for that record to come out. The advertisement only had like 1 or 2 photos from the session, and it was just, I couldn't believe it, man. All the records and the gear, and trying to see the gear and what is he using. And so, having said that, hip hop, the way hip hop has started to evolve sonically, I didn't like. It was becoming very thin and very tinny, and I just didn't like it. And I knew that a lot of that was credited to the gear that was coming out. And so, as a producer, I made a choice, regardless to whom or what. I made a choice to use a piece of machinery that captured the sound of yesteryear, because there's nothing wrong with that sound.
I agree.
And so, but the challenge was to use it in a way where I can compete with whatever was going on at the time. Like, I didn't want to sound dated just because I was using an old machine. I wanted people to listen to the music and go, what is he using? That was the mission, was to use the SP1200, that old dinosaur, but use it in a way where you couldn't tell what I was using. And so that challenge is what fueled me.
Well, 2 things I want to build on with you there. You're right. We never saw anyone's workstation. Mm-hmm. We did see studio picks like EPMD, but it's just a board lit up.
Yeah.
Herbie's machine.
Another
board lit up. But the ability to see someone's workstation was very we'd never seen that.
Yeah.
Now, if someone was to go back and listen to your discography, what and if you could name 3, you probably won't even be able to do 3. You probably end up doing 5. But if you wanted to say, this is me, this is Gensu Dean on the SP1200, what 5 songs would you say? Go listen to me when I did this. Now, I know you have dozens of SP1200 beats, but to get a glimpse of who you were at that time, or the best of you at that time, what 5 songs off the SP would you want them to hear?
Wow. They could, that's really hard. Probably Yin off of my first album with my man Rock Marciano. Peace to God.
You're not saying that just because that's one of my favorites, right?
No.
All right.
What I'm trying to think, to answer your question, not to dodge it, I'm trying to think what was one of the most difficult beats that I had to put, one of the most challenging beats I had, because I had to fool the machine. It became a game of chess with the machine. How can I make it do something that the screen is telling me I can't do because of the limitations of the technology? So it became a game of chess every time I sat down with the machine. But Yin, or, you can just probably pick anything off that first album. The album with my man Planet Asia, Peace to the God. There are several beats on there that I think would fit to answer your question. That album, Abrasions. I don't know, man. They just can pick anything off. I mean, the last SP album was the album with 730.
Mm-hmm.
My main man 730. His album, The Problem. That was the last SP work.
I love that record with him and Sean Price.
Yeah.
That was a good record.
Peace be upon him. Peace be upon him. That was, man, one day I'll have to tell you about that, because we did a video for that record, and hanging out with Sean.
It's unique.
At his crib.
Oh, that's a unique experience.
It was a unique experience.
Okay, SP1200. Okay, you're pretty much synonymous with that. But the truth is, you're no longer using that machine.
That's correct.
You're now using the MPC 3000, which is also my machine of choice as well.
Correct.
So, what was the catalyst of you making the change, and what made you stay there? Because I'm sure in our conversations, you've touched every machine. Let me stop him, just so you guys can know it's not just records he hoards. It's equipment. So he's had every he's had every drum machine you could ever imagine. Now I guess none of them have really fit his palate, but he's had it. So he's worked with everything, like the Ensoniq keyboards, the ASR10, the 2500, the 500, the 1000, 2000 XL. You touched and used all of them. I'm like, I'm over that.
The 60 machine.
All of them. So
I had a machine for about 2 weeks.
So what did the 3000 offer you that said, hey, SP, I think we've walked as far as we can walk together?
The 3 is the best of both worlds to me. It is the last machine that still preserved the warmth and that analog feel and sound. Mm-hmm. But technology-wise, it was advanced enough to still be sonically digestible to people that are even into music that's out today. So to me, it was that best of both worlds. And it's an exclusive, elusive machine. All of that kind of plays a part too. It's like they say in Star Wars, the lightsaber is an exquisite weapon.
Understood.
And then with the SP, I felt that what I wanted to accomplish, I did, and it was time to move on. There are some.
Who were the inspirations for? Like I know your inspirations with the SP were the Large Professors, the Pete Rocks, the Q-Tips, the Beat Miners. Yeah. So who were your inspirations to go on the 3000? You're like, yo, that's what he's using, and you're listening to his bodies of work, and you're like, okay, there's something going on over there.
Well, there's one from People Under the Stairs. My brother, DJ Spinner.
Spinner is nasty.
He
was nasty on the 12 too.
Yeah, he was.
He was nasty on the 12 too.
My brother, Jock Max, DJ Jock Max.
So slept. Hey, Jock Max, if you ever get to hear this interview, please make hip hop music again.
He is.
Please, Jock Max. Please, Jock Max. We need you back behind the boards of some drum machine immediately, Jock Max. I'm a big Jock Max fan, and there's not a huge discography of him.
There's not. I mean,
but when he touches down, he touches down.
And I have, because he's my brother, I have some exclusive stuff, and it's a regular. I play it regularly. Like it's.
Is it on that phone that's to the right of me?
Let me move my foot. He is a great inspiration. He is and was. Actually, him and Spinner were major influences on me to move to the 3. I remember Spinner sent me a text one day. He said, if you're doing this kind of stuff with the SP, I can only imagine where you would go if you were on that 3000. And that stuck with me because, there are certain beats that I had in my head that I wouldn't even, certain records I wouldn't even touch because I knew I couldn't do those loops or those chops justice unless I had the right machine to do it. So I had, each time I do this, and I've said this before in an interview, that each time I switch machines, it's like getting a whole new record collection again, because now I have to listen to the records differently. When I switched to the SP, I had to listen to things, and I had to be razor sharp and selective, but with the 3000, it was a little bit more range. So I can listen to stuff and go, oh, I want to add one more element. And now I can do it without thinking, man, do I need to delete this, or do I need to truncate my snare more to create a little bit more space so I can squeeze this horn in here? I don't have to do that anymore. If I want to add something extra, the 3000 enables me to do it. And then, of course, Dilla. So all of those people, but the primary people were DJ Spinner and DJ Jock Max.
Well, okay, then let me I'm going to throw some names at you. No, before I do that, the same question I asked about the SP. 5 records you've done with the 3000. that speak to who you are. Like, you want to hear some of me? Listen to this and this and this.
Okay, so listen to the title track from the album I did with Wise Intelligent, Peace to Wise, Game of Death.
Okay.
The outro of my album Raw, which is called, the song is called Peace. The song I did with Red Pill on the Raw album. Just listen to the whole Raw album.
The Raw
Raw album, that album is what I call my sweet spot, because that chamber of music is where I like to be when I create.
I'm not gonna lie. When you told me the album's going to be called Raw, and then it was an acronym for Refined Alkaline Water, I thought that was brilliant.
Thank you, bro.
I could definitely tell you spend a lot of time. You're just not thinking of titles. It's a truly thought out process with titles. Like Abrasions, that's a real title. That's not Me and the Boys. You know what I'm saying? It's just not something that's simple. Well, okay, I'm going to throw out some names to you, and you could tell me your thoughts on their works and how that how it resonates in you. Okay, let's start with the late great Dilla. Matter of fact, in a couple of days it's going to be Dilla month, so let's start there. Dilla, when the name J Dilla, JD comes to mind, what is your immediate thought when that name comes to mind?
Freedom. And what I mean by that is, for me, people listen to Dilla or producers in general, painters, actors, whatever, and everybody pulls something different. For me, Dilla represents freedom in terms of I'm not bound by any particular genre of music. I'm not bound by any caliber of record.
Okay.
I can just use whatever inspires me, whatever touches my spirit. I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna chop it, loop it, whatever. Add the drums and rock out.
The Beat Miners.
Raw, grungy, in your face hip hop. And I had the honor and pleasure of meeting both of those brothers. And peace to the Beat Miners. They are really great brothers, just in general. And of course, they're amazing producers. And Walt was another one that inspired me on that 3000. Yes, sir.
Rock Marciano.
Rock is, when I hear rock, I think of like a sinister scene of a crime movie, but with elegance. Like Rock and I did a song called Tuxedo, and it just kind of like, that's what it's, you know what I'm saying? Like the OG gangsters would roll
The
up.
pistol's still on them,
Right.
But that's a $5,000 tuxedo.
That's a tuxedo. Yeah, we in tuxedos rolling
But
up.
that pistol's still on them. That
Yeah.
pistol on 'em.
Oh yeah, that pistol.
And with that being said, Jazz, he runs with Rock, and a Gensu Dean Rock Marciano project. The universe could use that. The universe could use that. The universe can use that.
That Rock is Rock and Planet Asia are one of my favorite all-time favorite vocalists and writers. They're incredible, and I fast and pray that these brothers continue to get blessings and people continue to recognize them for their talents, because it's way deeper than the surface.
Okay.
Those guys are incredible. But yeah,
I have another name I want to put in front of you. I want to put Mad Lib in front of you.
Freedom, again, he's like Dilla. Mad Lib, man, like Mad Lib was one of the major, he probably was the last component of me moving to the SP. When I heard the Loot Pack album, it was a rap. It was a rap. And I heard a lot of that stuff early from my man DJ 5D, peace to 5D. And there was a chick that I knew that worked at New Groove Alliance, which did distribution for Stone's Throw early on. And she hooked me up with all of that. The Declaim stuff, peace to Dudley Perkins, and the Loot Pack album. And so I was studying that stuff heavy. But Madlib, and I had the pleasure and honor to meet that brother, good brother, real peace, and like the living goat, in my opinion, right now.
Large Professor.
I mean, what can you say, man? Large is everything. That's my brother. Large is everything. Gee, he is genius.
I will admit that
He is genius. He is genius. A word that pops in my head about Large, foundation.
Okay.
Because there are so many careers built off of Large being generous and saying, hey, turn this knob. Or, hey, you know you hip to this record? Man, I'm kind of lost for adjectives when it comes to that brother. That brother is special.
And the certified king of the SP 1200, Pete Rock.
Pete. I wanted my music to sound like Pete.
Who didn't?
Like
Who did?
Pete is.
Who did not want this music?
If there was no Pete, there would not be a lot of us.
Very fairly said.
If there was no Pete, there would not be a lot of us. And even though, we're in different times right now, like Pete, he still has bangers.
Absolutely.
Like Pete is in this whole trying to go over the top when you flip stuff and be intricate. Like Pete he's the founder of all of that. Like the 90% of the shit we do, pardon my language, when it comes to production, is going to trace back to Pete some kind of way. Pete and Large is going to go back to them or Pete, Large, or Preem.
I was going to say Premier next.
All three P's. Pete,
the three P's.
See, Premier is something special too because, him being from Texas, I spent a lot of time in Texas. I still live in Texas. When I was in high school, I went to Prairie View and saw Premier and Guru, peace be upon Guru, at the homecoming. Like I related more to Premier's music than anyone else in my early days. In the early Gangstar records, I related, those records spoke directly to me.
Okay. Also, you know what? Since we've done that. I need to speak on a producer from our area. Mm-hmm. I want to add Kev Brown. Your thoughts on Kev Brown, please.
Kev Brown represent hope. When I first caught wind of Kev, and I was like, and he was not from New York or L.A. He represented hope. Like, this dude is incredibly dope, and he's getting a shine. Like let me say this. One thing about me is I'm a real student of what I do. And so being a genuine student and practitioner, I can cheer for somebody else. I can enjoy somebody else's win, and it doesn't, with no malice and no agenda. There's a principle that we study called equality, and without being philosophical, but equality is the desire for your brother that in which you desire for yourself. And so when I see people like, actually the whole movement in this DMV area, I got wind of early, and it just it excited me because these brothers were like competitively dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, you cannot get caught slipping, because there was a lot of people coming out of this DMV area that was incredible, and Kev at the forefront. And I was buying it all, man. Like, I got I bought that 12-inch, the Always Got to Be that from that on up. Even the record that, and I told him is one of my favorite records from him, that he did, a group that Quartermain was in.
Acclaim?
Critically acclaimed.
Critically acclaimed.
I even have all that stuff. And because I'm a vinyl enthusiast, I bought it all on vinyl.
Yeah, enthusiast is a loose word. You're a hoarder. You're a complete. Well, with that being said, vinyl enthusiast, top 5 cities to dig.
Wow, that's a good question. That's a good one. Probably Chicago.
1.
New York.
2, even with those inflated prices, still.
Here's the thing. Here's the secret about New York. If you're not a condition snob, you can really win in New York.
I can't
Because
win.
they will price records. Yeah, you and my guy Musa, peace to Musa. They will price the records very reasonable if there are some blemishes. But mine don't have to be perfect. So
Okay.
So Chicago, New York, L.A.
Some of those record stores in
Bay.
LA seem to intimidate. Like I can't see me going to Amoeba and not just having a conniption fit and just crying on the floor.
There's a lot of records there. It's gotten a little pricey on the West Coast, but the quality of the records are good.
Very good.
Texas.
You down there in like a pig and slop down there, aren't you? Down in Texas, just buying it all up. Amazing. So Dean, okay, one person I forgot in my rollout, I wanted you to speak on Wise Intelligent. He said some amazing things about you. I saw online, and he spoke like if you get a beat for Gensu Dean, be prepared. Be very prepared. Be very prepared. It's not you're allowed to sit on this for 7-8 months. Like, no, if he sent it to you, it's to be taken care of promptly as possible. And talked about you being such a self-starter. So he does the record, he sends it back to you a couple of days later. It's like, hey, I'm going to be in Atlanta. Let's shoot 3 videos. Like, wait, whoa, holy.
Yeah.
Like, so with you being an independent artist and so much is required on you, could you speak to that for other people trying to navigate their way in being independent artists, what it requires, or what you have to ask of yourself in the process? Do you mind speaking on that?
Yeah. Focus, planning, the 5 Ps. Prior planning prevents poor performance. Dedicated and have the vision. Like, map it out, man. Like, anybody can sit around at the round table and come out with ideas, but there is a process to make things manifest. And so you have to just map out that process, what works for you, and execute. With the record that I did with Wise, I created the batches of music. Well, I just created the music in general, and then from that, I said, okay, so I'm doing this record with Wise. So I went into these different folders and started pulling stuff that I thought would fit the album. So I would have a left and a right for every song. So we did 8 records on there, and then there's the intro and outro. So I had tons of music, but specifically catered to what this album could possibly be. So when I was playing the stuff for Wise, it was records that I could hear him on. Then from there, I went into my next phase. And then from there, I went into my next phase. And even before I kicked everything off, I did the research on how I wanted this record mixed. So I started researching engineers, because I always do the pre-mix. But then people who master that lane, I handed to them afterwards. So I'd already did the research on my man Parks. Big up to Parks.
Yo, congratulations, Parks. Everything with Joe Budden and the podcast, Parks. This is you're having a dynamite year, Parks. You're having a dynamite year.
He's a good dude, and he's a great engineer. He's a dope producer, and just a good all around good dude. So big up to my man Parks. But I did the knowledge to him, and so I already knew that I wanted to work with him in terms of mixing the album, because I did the rhythm roulette at the same studio, and Parks engineered that session.
Shout out to DITC.
Shout out to DITC, Showbiz, Diamond, the whole crew. My man OC, the whole crew, and Dave Bars. He's getting it in too right now.
Dave Bars is special.
He's very special.
Dave Bars is very special.
So that would be. I mean, I hope that answered the question. That someone wanting to do that, man, like planning and execution.
5 Ps.
Yep, there you go.
5 Ps.
Word is
Okay, a Gensu Dean Dream Project. What is the Dream Project for you?
You mean Dream Projects?
I'll take it. Dream Projects.
An EP with Nas.
EP with Nas.
An an EP with Killer Priest.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Keep going.
An EP with David Banner.
Okay. That's easy for you.
Yeah, we like it to be organic, man.
Yeah,
But,
you don't,
you know,
hey,
we need it.
you don't want to use the 5 Ps for that one. You
Yeah.
just want that one to just happen.
An EP with Erica.
All right.
An EP with Erica. Big up
All
to my
right.
sis, Erica Badu.
That Grambling connection. My gosh. Man.
There's a lot, man. There's I mean, you know, one thing that, you know, it looks like may not happen unless he dives back into it is I would love to work with the brother Yassine Bey.
He's recording. I don't think he can get that out of his system.
I don't think so either. I hope
I
not.
think he's recording. I'm sure of it. He's recording.
People under the stairs, man.
Yeah,
They're hanging up the towel. I'm a
Yeah, you said he's
huge
selling
fan.
his whole equipment, right? Isn't that what
Oh
he's
no,
doing?
I don't know if he's that studio. He put a lot into that studio. I don't think he's going to sell it, but
Okay.
I do know he made an announcement overseas. I'm a huge fan of theirs. If the people haven't heard, if you've been living in a hovel or a cave somewhere, go out and check People Under the Stairs. All of their work, all of the extensive work is dope.
Okay, with that being said, when you meet younger practitioners of hip hop, what are the 5 things you say go listen to? Like, go listen to this. You need to listen to that. You need to check that out. You need to check that out. Are there some? I don't want to call them precursors, but are there some constant go-tos you tell young people who are wanting to get involved with the hip hop that you make? What do you tell them to go give a quick listen to?
I try not to create parameters. I just tell them to check. I give them a generalization. Go check, go check the mid to late 80s stuff. Go check the early 90s, mid 90s. I try not to.
You just don't scream Gangstar at them immediately?
Yeah, no, I don't. Unless they ask me specific questions like, what producers influence me or what producers inspire me. Then I'll tell them. But I try not to create prison houses for people by telling them what to go listen to specifically. Unless the situation is like, okay, name a song with like some ill drums that you really like. If it's a specific question like that, then I'll say, oh, okay, well, go check this song or that song. But just in general, me hipping them to something, I just tell them, go just explore. Go explore the stuff. Go explore that independent movement, the hieroglyphic stuff, the stuff on Raucous, just go explore. I just give them the years. If any parameters, I give them the years.
I also want to give people an opportunity to beat up on you as well. So I'm going to put this out here. We've had conversations about Gangstar albums. And, we're all allowed our own opinion.
Right.
I've never been able to honestly say, because my favorite 2 albums by them is Daily Operation and Hard to Earn.
Mm-hmm.
But in our conversations, you keep telling me, yo, the Owners needs to be right up there next to those albums. I want you to fight that fight right now, because I'm guaranteeing 90% of the Gangstar fans, we're that Daily Operation, Hard to Earn era is the pinnacle of them. But you told me many a time, like, yes, you're right, but so's the Owners. Could you go in there, because I want people to beat you up on this?
Okay, so first of all, it's like children. You don't never compare your children. So I'm not comparing. But what I am saying is this. They were at mastery level. Him and Guru. They were at mastery level when they did the Owners. And the Owners and the sound of the sonic sound of the Owners, it all represented something in a time where everyone was doing something else. I'll just put it that way.
That's fair.
And so the beats bang, Preem was they were at mastery level. You know what I'm saying? And so when you're at that level, it's like you're at the top of the plateau. where else can you go? And so, Daily Op is dope. It's got some very dope beats, some dope songs, and there's a lot of nostalgia that gets in the way also of those records.
That's fair. That's fair.
Because we can find moments of Daily Op, we can find moments of Hard to Earn, but the Owners is a consistent play.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I'm a huge Gangstar fan, so I'll play No More Mr. Nice Guy,
There it is.
you know, and bump that. I'm a huge fan, but the Owners definitely doesn't get the attention it should.
2019, what are you trying to accomplish this year? Like, you had a good year last year, had the record with Wise. You know what I'm saying? So what about this year? What are the things that, with the 5 P's in place, what's coming down the pike from you?
Definitely more music.
Can't give us a hint on who it might be with?
Well, I'm still in the planning stages, planning and plotting, in terms of artists. But I have been talking to a handful. That's something that's going to be different for 2019. It just won't be like one record. It's going to be multiple things coming out with multiple different artists. You'll see a lot more new artists also.
Okay.
Some not so known artists that I'm going to be working with.
Okay. Oh, wow. So I guess my last question for you would be this. You've been in D.C. roughly about a little over 8 hours.
How many records did I buy?
Well, no. I took you to one record store. You did well. You did well. I figured we'd still be sitting there, honestly, right now. You can ask Gadget. I was like, yo, we're going to be here till about 8:30 tonight until they close the doors.
Very disciplined. I took into consideration everyone's stamina, pause, and yeah, I was very merciful this time.
Well, Dean, thank you, man. We love the opportunity we had to sit down
Thank
with
you,
you to be
brother.
able to pick your brain a little bit.
I appreciate
Looking forward to some more music from you. You know, Mellow Music has something special in you, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Let's do it.
Peace.